New York Knicks pull off another comeback, a classic win, although they led most of this one in ATL. But man, the crowd was on fire tonight as the Knicks won 128 to 125, right? They had control of this ball game, but Atlanta didn't go away, man. Jalen Johnson definitely willed his team back into this one. But the New York Knicks, man, a lot of stories to come out of this one, and they gritted it out, man, to continue this role, right? As Detroit lost last night to the Utah Jazz, the New York Knicks now inch closer to the #1 seed. Welcome in to the post-game live with CT on the road, right? Back in the studio for the next game against the Pelicans. But I appreciate everyone coming through. Smash that like button. You've got the Knicks streets buzzing. Buzzer beater, Dermot Ernest in the building, right? Brunson didn't quite have it going. Not his best game. Hit some clutch buckets as he always does. But one of the biggest heroes is obviously OG Anunoby, right? Got to start with him first, man. Critical offensive rebound, right? Hitting all of his free throws. He was just on it in this one. OG Anunoby, defensive player, making that run. And got the key strip and steal on Jalen Johnson. Where would we be without OG, right? OG Anunoby, absolute demon. One of our most important players, if not the most important player, doing it on both ends of the floor, fam. Who doesn't love a two-way player and a two-way demon? OG stepped up, man, in a major way. He saved us, right? But also, Karl-Anthony Towns, right? Really like the aggression. Karl-Anthony Towns took control of the game early. By far the most free throws in his Knicks career. He had 20 plus free throws. I lose count. I think he's still at the line right now, knocking down free throws. Man, what an exciting game, man. Knicks, what a time to be a fan of this great team. And Karl-Anthony Towns, man, he was dominant. Okongwu, we're going to get to him, man. Those that are locked in with us, man. 2 streams ago, I said that Okongwu would be a good kind of addition for the Knicks if they could find a way to get him. He killed us with the 3 ball, right? But we're going to get to Kevin Mack, man. I see Prezi the boss and Dermot in the building. Salute, guys. Hit that like button. And you're rocking with CT Live on the road on YouTube live reactions. We shout you guys out. And what a fun win, right? It was cardiac. Cardiac is back. But I'll take it because, a road win. So the Knicks start a 3-game road trip now. And we all know Josh Hart is going to be out for these 3 games. If you didn't know, you know. He's going to be reevaluated once the team gets back to New York City. And so the Knicks start, this 3-game road trip strong with a gritty win on the road, fam, in which other guys on the roster continue to step up. Kolek made some big heady plays, continues to get that valuable experience closing games out, man. What a revelation that is, right? We're going to continue to talk about that. But Cat, as I say, man, he was hitting free throws and he was throwing his weight around. Obviously got the size advantage on Okongwu. Porzingis is out with illness, that injury that's been plaguing him. Trae Young was pretty much ineffective in this one. It was Jalen Johnson, Okongwu, and Vrit Krejci that was drilling the 3 ball. Nickeil Alexander-Walker, fam, he had that key, shot to tie it up. 125, 128, but he bricked it. But it was good coverage. Kevin McCullar jumped Trae Young and definitely got the ball out of his hands and made sure that, it was in the hands of someone else. Kodeska says, ugly, but a win is a win. Absolutely agree with you, fam. Now, Kevin McCullar Jr., fam, 13 points, 8 rebounds, right? 3 of 6 from downtown, 2 steals, 2 assists. My guy, man, I've been Kevin McCullar hive for a long time. And it's great to see Mike Brown, look to him with Josh Hart out. And Kevin McCullar Jr., boy, did he repay the faith of Mike Brown, right? And Knicks faithful got to see what a player we might have on our hands, right? Obviously one of, the standout college players in his season with Kansas, right? In his last season, Knicks took a flyer because of some injury concerns. They were patient as Tyler Murray and Alan Hahn spoke on the call, MSG Networks, right? The Knicks understood what they were getting in Kevin McCullar Jr., man. A Josh Hart light. Josh Hart tweeted this out during the game, says, yeah, Kev. He'd been taking Kevin under his wing, for those that know. And, he models his game around a Josh Hart, right? He's a good slasher, a swing man. But I think the three-point ball is a huge swing skill. To knock down 3 of 6 in his first big breakout NBA game, meaningful minutes, was great. Because one of the biggest knocks on Kevin McCullar was his three-point ball. And if you didn't already know, he's got a hell of a motor, fam. He's got a motor for days. And he's an excellent rebounder at the guard spot. Something we already know that Josh Hart is one of the best at. And Kevin McCullar is no slouch in that area. He reads the flight, reads the play. He's long, he's physical, he can defend point of attack, and he can also put the ball on the floor and play make with the assists as well. 8 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 13 points. Could have had a lot more, as he did miss, I think, 3 or 4 free throws earlier in the ball game. But look, for his first major minutes, right, you got to feel great. I mean, what a headache, a good headache Mike Brown is going to have when Landry Shamet and Deuce McBride eventually are able to come back. And look, Deuce McBride was upgraded for this one to questionable. I think, he's going to make his return at some point on the road in the next 2 games. If not, definitely the first game back in New York City. Deuce McBride is ever so close to coming back. What do we do with the rotation? We're going to talk about that. But what a ball game. Knicks pull out another classic cardiac affair. Brunson hit that big 3 as well. That also, pushed us back up into the lead. We never really should have lost the lead. I think we got a little bit sloppy with our rotations, and obviously with the size that we had, and Atlanta were moving the ball around real quick. But look, Trae Young, he was relatively ineffective. Great defensive possession from Tyler Kolek on Jalen Johnson, given up, 6, 7, 8 inches, and he defended him really disciplined, was able to get the hand up and force the short mid-range from Jalen Johnson. We got the rebound, and we got key rebounds when we really, really needed it, right? So Knicks continue to win ugly at times, but they continue to grit it out. Championship DNA, dare I say. Buzzer beater, looking forward to the Detroit matchup. They never played anybody. Yeah, look, I was hate watching last night. Great win by the Utah Jazz, right? They almost threw it away, but can't wait for that matchup. Chancellor says Knicks desperately needed another swing, and if McCuller can be it, so huge. I agree, man. I think obviously the Knicks are going to be aggressive in this trade and buyout period, but Kevin McCullar Jr. is on a 2-way contract, and I think today and hopefully it continues, but the organization is really going to have a lot to go off when they're going to make a decision, because I don't know if he's eligible for one more year of a 2-way. But obviously the roster, fam, it's tight. And look, things ain't looking great for Yabusele and Dardier at the moment in terms of their long-term Knicks future. We got Landry Shamet and Deuce McBride to come back. Look, Clarkson, a comeback down to moment in this one wasn't great. But look, other guys picked him up. And that's what a team is, a championship level team. Other guys will pick you up. And we continue to hear the quotes from Josh Hart, I think this is going back a week ago or earlier. Hart told everyone in the locker room, look, the starters don't have it. We need you guys. We need the young guys to really step up and pick us up, play confident, and give us a boost when we need. And that's what we're getting. And look, we always wanted a coach to empower and, and trust and help the organization develop their draft picks. And look, I'm really pleased. I don't know if anyone, any Knicks fan, can't be pleased with how the Knicks are at least trying to develop some of the younger players, right? We're going to hit on Mohamed Diarra because he got the start, and he was obviously a pivotal factor in this game. His defense and length were getting critical stops, deflections, and look, I think we just got to see a team for once where we had size advantage, right? Mohamed Diarra 6'9", McCuller 6'6". And obviously with OG and McCall and Cat and Mitch out there, we had a lot of size at the wing positions too. So look, in terms of McCullar Jr., right, on a 2-way contract, right, I think he's limited to 45 games. There's plenty of time in the season for him to continue to get major minutes. And maybe in back-to-backs, he gets major minutes like this. 23 tonight, I think 24 minutes. And he's deserving of more minutes, 100%. Right, he made key plays. A couple of sloppy, illegal screens, but I did think the Atlanta player flopped, flopped on one of them. And I think he's a little bit unlucky, but he's going to learn those vet moves from those other teams, fam. Buzzer says, yeah, Tylenol was constantly moving his feet on D and bothering Jalen Johnson. Yeah, look, I think offensively we've talked about Kolek's advancement development, but defensively, right, he's making key plays on the defensive side, right? So that lets you know how real it is with Tyler Kolek, right? Yeah, the three ball's still a work in progress. Had a couple of open looks and missed, but he's swinging the ball offensively. He's a huge plus and plus minus, right? There's no team really taking advantage on the defensive side, right? He's much better than Trae Young, put it that way. And if Tibbs was coaching, yeah, we all know the story. We all know the outcome. I've turned the page on the Tibbs era, looking full ahead. But yeah, I know a lot of Knicks fans will continue to, to look back at, on the Tibbs situation. We're not playing these guys, with a sour taste. But we got Mike Brown in here, and I've got to give props to the front office, Leon Rose, for bringing in a guy who is willing to collaborate and understand the vision of this organization, right? We're capped up against the second apron, and we need contributors from the bench and the draft picks, right? These guys are just sitting there on the bench. They've been learning. They've been buying their time and paying their dues in the G League. And Kevin McCullar is healthy now. We got to see tonight the vision of what he can provide this team, man. Even in spot minutes, he can give this team a boost, right? I mean, I was just wanting Tibbs to give him 6 minutes last season, 3 minutes a half. Kolek, the same thing. Thankfully, we got Diarra in the draft. He's really proven that he's a valuable, steal. I mean, there was draft scouts saying he wasn't even NBA ready. He wasn't even playable, right? And that's why I do take a lot of draft scouts and reporters with a grain of salt, because, yeah, they have hours to gloss over film, but they don't really watch every single prospect like that. And so Diarra got the off-season, got the chemistry with the squad, and starting, you got to see the wingspan and the length that he can really help us with, right? Prezi the boss says, yeah, CT, you see that. Kolek, Diarra, McCuller have it. They just need to focus on their scoring, tighten up their shots, finishing at the rim and free throws. Yeah, Fred Katz, Athletic, used to cover the Knicks, now covers the NBA as a whole. He tweeted this out during the McCuller experience tonight. He said, look, McCuller, for all of the work he'd done scoring defensively, one of the underrated things McCuller was doing was swinging the ball, right? He was unselfish. He was making the extra pass. When he was feeling it, he could have gotten aggressive and taken it to the rack, maybe forced it a little bit, but McCuller was team friendly, and that's composure. That's kind of a guy ahead of his years. We do know McCuller is an older prospect. He's kind of like Kolek, 24, 25, and ready to contribute right away. So I do think, look, the vision for the front office, drafting these guys that ain't super young, but they're more experienced from college, they're able to come into a winning team and actually contribute. They're hard-nosed. Kansas, Marquette, Kolek, McCuller. I think the biggest surprise is just Diarra. Look, from a French league or Germany, whatever league he was in Europe, a weak league, but he's able to come in, and obviously he's got the extra physical tools as his advantage, but he's reading the play well. He's using his wingspan, getting deflections, and he's playing quite disciplined out there, knocking down a 3-ball as well. Michael, salute. Great to see you. Happy holidays to everyone out here rocking out, man. 60 plus on the live right now. Hit that thumbs up. And Michael says, do you agree? Leaving Kolek out there in the fourth, that 3-guard lineup almost cost us the game. I think Mike Brown was worried, the Brunson turnover, fam. I think once Brunson turned it over, Kolek was either going to come back in or definitely stay in if he wasn't already on the floor with that one. Right, I do think they were going to put Nickeil Alexander-Walker and they were going to blitz Brunson. So I think Mike Brown wanted another ball handler out there that he could trust. But yeah, we're always going to have that worry, I think, with the size, with the Kolek situation. Look, what happens with Deuce when he's going to be out there? He's going to be more aggressive offensively and is more of a threat to knock the three down. So I do think Deuce would probably just be in Kolek's situation if Deuce was fit and healthy tonight. We'll see moving forward. But look, it's growing pains. I think you need Kolek out there late, Michael, just to experience these wins ahead of the playoffs, these close games. It might not always go our way, but we're always going to learn something from the game. I do think he probably left McCullar out there a little too much, but I ain't mad at that at all because I do think, again, he's trusting the player. And that's something that, former coaches wasn't able to do. Now, super chat come through from my guy, Buzzer Beater. After tonight, do we still need a trade? Hashtag New York Flash. That's the squad that's the name we've given this squad, fam. New York Flash. They play quick. They'll get up quick and they'll blitz. And what a team we have right now. We've got some young players emerging, fam. Draft picks, homegrown players. Mitchell Robinson, we're going to hit on him, fam. I can't forget about Mitch because boy, did he, have a great game, dominating the glass as well, getting second chance points. But to Buzzer's question and super chat, and once again, appreciate you for the contribution, as always, got the streets buzzing. I don't think we need a trade. And I was actually saying this in the last week or two. I think buyout is something that we could really look at. Now, we might need a trade for a different reason, though, and that's to clear up space. When you have that dead wood, you have clutter around the house, the New Year's here, sometimes you need a spring clean, a summer clean out, whatever it is. There's some players that, we could do a solid and they ain't playing with us right now. Maybe we can move them on to clear up more space. Man, I've been talking for weeks. I would like Trey Jemison to be off a two-way, and he didn't even play tonight. So that just speaks to our depth, right? I could talk for hours about it right now. Tosan, we haven't really got much of a look at him. Dink Pate, I haven't been able to check the full box score, but I've been seeing some work tonight in Westchester, fam. Tosan, I think, had 28 or 30 points. Dink Pate was going crazy as well. So clear that space, Leon Rose, right? It might not be about bringing in a Sadiq Bey, or Jose Alvarado via trade, because they're going to take minutes away, right? And that might be a good thing still if they can contribute, but we have players already that can contribute right now. Let's see what happens with Kevin McCullar right now, Kolek. We've still got, another month or so before the trade deadline actually hits, and Deuce is about to come back. I think Landry will be healthy before the end of the trade deadline. So we are going to get, more looks at these guys before, that deadline slams shut. That guy says, I would have really liked to see what Coach Brown could have done with the other Kevin Knox. I think we're turning the page, fam. Young Goat salute coming to you from Australia, actually, but nice guess, that one. But yeah, those that, been watching Westchester, we've been seeing some great games from these guys, but I just think they're more ready to contribute, some older prospects. But look, Diarra is just really the surprise packet for me. He would have probably slipped out of the draft. What did we take Diarra? 50, 55, 56? He might have slipped out of the draft, if we didn't select him. I heard from some key notable scouts that, they weren't sure whether he was even going to come over this season. Here he is getting major minutes on the team that's the favorite to come out of the East. So you got to get guys in your building, then you can evaluate and you can really boost their confidence in their game. Credit to the coaching staff, Mike Brown first and foremost, for giving these guys opportunities, fam. Another Michael C says, hey, Knicks Buzz, I can't believe they've had Kolek playing D in the final minutes, right? Look, Kolek, the size is always going to be that limitation, but he's definitely made improvements in that area. He had a wide open three, and I've been talking about, I think the three ball is his swing skill. Fam. Mellow Mike, salute, was at the Westchester game. Shout out to you, fam, on your grind, man. I've seen you about. And great to have you with us tonight, rocking out, man. Knicks streets are buzzing right now, fam. Right, I feel giddy. We've got the All-Star voting too. And look, on a night where Jalen Brunson didn't need to save us, he made, a couple of great plays and a big shot, but obviously the turnover too, the trap, the blitz. I do think the ball needed to move quicker from Jalen Brunson tonight. He'll watch the tape. He'll figure it out too. D. Grant says Yabu has a no-clause trade contract. Look, I do know he has the player option. I've never heard of any no-trade situation. He does have the player option right now, and if he ain't getting minutes, he'll be picking that option up, 5.5 million, wherever he is. So I think the Knicks have got to try to move him if they can, if they don't see him in that rotation. Now, they might express patience. They might, try to let him find his game, which I wouldn't be mad at. Sometimes players are just, in a funk. But with Yabusele, man, I think it's more than that. I think it's just a matter of fit right now. Diarra is just a better fit. Look, Hart didn't play tonight. Deuce didn't play. Landry Shamet didn't play. So I want y'all to let me know right now in the chat and in the comment section, replay squad. Fam, how do you solve this, rotation crunch? You're right. Hart's obviously going to come back in, right? He's going to start. Mike Brown's already made that decision, and Hart is the starter, and he's been excellent with the starting five this season. Obviously, shooting it at a much higher clip. As for that, look, you could reduce Clarkson's minutes. I'm a big fan of Landry Shamet. I think he plays better defense than Jordan Clarkson. Yes, he's probably less versatile offensively than Clarkson. Clarkson can take it to the rack. He can fade away. He can get fouled. And he can, obviously, go off, as we've seen in the NBA Cup, and then obviously against on Christmas Day as well. But I do think Landry Shamet's floor is a lot higher, obviously, for a high leverage playoff game. So maybe you just have a quicker hook with a Jordan Clarkson, and you bring Shamet into the fold. Deuce McBride, obviously, Deuce needs 25 to 30 minutes. Now he might be coming back a little slow off this layoff with the injury. Got to give Deuce time to get his groove back, get back into rhythm. And I do think probably Kolek, as much as he's been excellent, his minutes are probably going to go down. Deuce McBride does bring, more scoring, can handle the ball. He's not as facilitator like Kolek is. And I'm not saying Kolek should be out of the rotation, but you got to think probably Clarkson's minutes will go down some. Kolek's minutes will go down quite a lot. And then you bring in Shamet, you bring in Deuce McBride, you have a quick hook with Clarkson. If he ain't got it going, maybe then you turn to Kolek in that regard. But as for Kevin McCullar Jr., well, we're going to need him some, because Josh Hart is going to be out against New Orleans, and he's going to be out against the other final road game. And then obviously we play Atlanta as well when we get back to New York City as well. Michael Drake, salute in the chat, says, please Nick sign Dink Pate. Chris Gotti says Kevin McCullar. That is all. Look, it's Christmas time. Christmas just passed, but it's only right that a Kevin Mack around Christmas is thriving in New York City. Shout out Home Alone. D. Grant, I'm disappointed in Pacome Dardier. I was hoping he would be in some position as Tyler Kolek. Yeah, look, I've talked about Pacome Dardier. I like the archetype. He just hasn't been able to show it yet. Whether that's just because it's too young, he ain't ready yet. I do think a timing thing is everything. Kolek, if he was given major minutes last season, maybe he would have failed because he wasn't quite ready. The biggest thing is, guys, as a coach, as an organization, you got to protect players sometimes as well. You can't just throw them out to the wolves, throw them out in the deep end. They can lose confidence. It can shatter them. Look at Kevin Knox. He's barely in the league right now. Look how confident he once was coming in to Summer League, looking like Kevin Durant, kind of a baby Kevin Durant. People were dubbing Kevin Knox. And look, maybe, look, the blame is more so on Kevin Knox, but the organization can, definitely hurt a player's stock and confidence when, if they're playing when they ain't ready, right? This is the biggest league, the best league in the world. You're either ready or you ain't. And if you ain't ready, you got to be in the gym. You got to be in the gym every day, getting better, because the competition is doing the same thing. The competition's getting better every single day. And so, it's tough. Guys come in, they make a couple mistakes, they're out of it. That's why I'm so pleased for Kevin McCullar Jr., because he got major minutes and he took advantage of that, right? If McCullar didn't do anything tonight, it would have been a whole lot of Knicks fans saying, yeah, I'm done with him, whatever. Waive him from the two-way, trade him, whatever. It's that fickle, guys. It really is that fickle. You either come in for your biggest spot and you show out, you take that opportunity and you get a second opportunity. And then all you can hope is that you produce again in your second opportunity and you get it again, right? And so with Kevin McCullar Jr., I always felt the floor is a lot higher than Pacome Dardier, right? Kevin McCullar, if you watched him in college, right, he was a stat stuffing player, defensively excellent, a ball hawk as the point of attack. He got multiple deflections, 2 steals as well, having his hands out there, active, has his hands up, goes vertical defensively too. He's very disciplined. The thing that surprised me the most is the 3-point ball. The one where he pulled up in transition with nobody around. The confidence was buzzing at that moment, man. McCuller just pulled up from 3 and knocked that one down. Now, he's been better in the corners, so for him to knock down that one straight in was big time. And you just see him wanting to play more minutes, man. He's hungry. And we're going to need a guy like that against, the Rockets, the Pistons, OKC, when we face them. The Spurs, again, will be looking for revenge. Guys like Kevin McCullar, they can come in and change the ball game, get a couple stops, play 8 to 10 minutes. Another guy like Deuce McBride at the point of attack where they can switch. Right? They don't need to fight over screens, because a guy like a Deuce and McCullar could literally pick up 94 feet. And we need another guy like that, because we know Kolek and Brunson don't pick up 94 feet. I do think McCullar can do that. So I'm looking forward to seeing some McCullar, Deuce McBride action as well, too. Johnny Cheeber's in the house, CT. I like the arc on Kevin J's threes. Yeah, great point. The form looked pretty, real high release. How about that one that was rattling down, man? It almost went down. That would have been one of the biggest shots of the game. And I think that would have given the Knicks enough separation to see out the game comfortably. But that was a momentum swing. The ball rolled out and the Hawks went on a bit of a run. But, that almost went down. So, yeah, McCullar's 3-point ball, look out for that. Defensively, he belongs. He belongs in the league. He belongs in the NBA. He belongs with the New York Knicks. Does Kevin McCullar Jr. I think health at the top, first and foremost, health has been the biggest obstacle for Kevin McCullar Jr. I think he would have had this NBA moment sooner. He probably would have gotten drafted sooner with his exploits for Kansas. But nevertheless, he slipped. And the Knicks were fortunate enough to get a talent like that very, very late in the draft, right? A guy who could come in and contribute right away. And look, how good does it feel, Knicks Nation, when you see, us develop young players, and you got fans of other NBA franchises looking at the Knicks saying, man, y'all winning, y'all stacked with veterans, but y'all also developing young players. When have we seen this? When have we seen this before? Usually we're picking up guys off the waiver wire and things like that. I do know we had a lot of unheralded guys, Charlie Ward, Chris Childs, guys, given the roster a top up back in the 90s. Now this could be a situation where we're looking to drafted players to really give us that boost to solidify the rest of the squad. Right. And it's completely true what Josh Hart said, man. When the starters don't have it, someone else got to step up and give the team a boost. Right. These guys ain't here just to look pretty and earn a check sitting on the bench, right? They got to get gritty. When it's an 82-game season, right, there are going to be nights when you're on the road and you just don't have it, or you need a guy to do some dirty work. Man, sky for some bounds, 8 rebounds for Kevin McCullar. I think 4 or 5 offensive, 2 steals, knocking down threes. Man, I just think it's contagious right now. Shout out to Clyde. Right, it's contagious, outrageous. When you're seeing other veterans thrive and these rookies are around these guys, they start to pick it up. They start to form winning habits. That's what we're seeing with McCullar, Diarra, and Kolek. No, they ain't finished. They're not finished article, finished product, but they are seeing, you know, these other veterans do their work day in, day out, and they are starting to pick up, you know, those winning habits right now, which is great. You know, when you're with a winning organization, right? Now, look, this game should have been a lot more comfortable, but look how many guys we're missing, right? You know, guys really had to fight in this one. As I mentioned earlier, I'll say it again. Onyeka Okongwu, I think his salary is going to be would be tough to acquire without moving on from a major piece. But just from a skill set player standpoint, I said this weeks ago. I think Okongwu would have been a good name to get. I know a lot of people were talking about Sadiq Bey and some other guys as well, man. But Okongwu, if he's knocking down threes like that, he would have been a perfect backup, right? Obviously, he's more advanced than Huck Porty is. I think it'd be a wrap if we had another big like him, right, to back up Mitch and Cat. Let's see what Leon the Don can do, man. Michael Drake says Kevin McCullar Jr. is Josh Hart 2.0. I can see it. I really can, fam. Aqua says, love Mike Brown taking Cat and Brunson out for those defensive stops at the end of the game. Yep, 100% agree with you on that. Jet Life for Life, salute. Great to see you in here. Yeah, Mike Brown's flexible. You know, you could tell he's a coach that's confident in his decisions, but he ain't panicking. He ain't sweating, you know, losing his job, right? Clearly, Leon Rose said, look, there's pressure, you know, whatever. We're going to try to win a title. But as long as you collaborate with us, you're flexible, you know, you read the game, you know, you utilize the full squad and the roster, you make solid decisions based on data, experience, and all of that, I'm cool with that. You know, it might not always work out, but, you know, so far so good, man. As some of you guys are on point tonight with Kolek, you know, seeing the game out late, it was tough defensively, but you know, with McCuller, right? I think he was overcompensating a little bit for his good night, but I guess when you got a guy like Clarkson who didn't really have it going, we'll see what plays out. Johnny Chiba says Akong Wu Tang is 1000% an upgrade over Yabul Smelly. This team is special. Do reviews, music. Agree. 100%. We're learning more every single day, fam. We're 31 games into the season as the Knicks move to 22-9 now, and we can afford to experiment, right? Yes, I want that number 1 seed, but coming out of the East is more important, fam. Winning the conference, right, at the end of the Eastern Conference Finals, finishing 1 or 2, I think it's, you know, it's apples and apples right now. We just got to stay healthy. A couple of guys keep getting banged up, man. What's with these ankle rolls, fam? Every single player on the roster feels like has rolled an ankle at some point, right? We just got to stay healthy. And I think we can knock off anyone, fam. I look forward to seeing the Spurs again because I really do think that's a better matchup for us. If they can knock off OKC, I do think the Spurs are a slightly better matchup, right? And we can, you know, we've got players that can defend Wemby. We can go with OG, or we could go with Mitch, and we can definitely mix and match, right? We've got more ball handling now with Tyler Kolek and the assists. The 3-point shooting will get better when Deuce McBride and Landry Shamet return to the squad as well. Let's not forget about that, guys. What makes our offense the most potent is the 3-point shot, and we really are missing 2 great 3-point shooters. Look, Clarkson been doing a great impression recently, but he ain't a 3-point shooter, really, if we're keeping it a buck. Deuce McBride, one of our best 3-point marksmen, and so is Landry, too. You know, I was counting on Yabul Sele giving us offense and knocking down the 3-point shot as well, but obviously he's out of the rotation right now, which looks like it's a permanent thing. Jose G, Insight, let's go Knicks. Great win in the ATL, right? Let's go to New Orleans right now and continue this streak, continue rolling. Matthew says, let's go. Knicks build Brunson a statue outside the Garden. That's coming. That's coming real soon, fam. Brunson, that big three was huge. You know, a little bittersweet with the turnover late. But obviously, you know, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is a great player. That was one of their best pickups, right? Dyson Daniels still continues to struggle offensively. Trae Young was very passive right now. I think he's trying to be too unselfish, is Trae Young. You know, and I remember thinking this late in the fourth, man, how many pull-up threes did Trae Young even attempt? Fam, like, that's so unlike Trae Young against the Knicks. He's always trying to pull up for those deep threes, but he was so hesitant tonight. Whether that's him just feeling like that you know, Hawks situation's coming to an end, or he's lacking confidence, or the Knicks defensive coverage was good. Could have been anything, but he wasn't very aggressive tonight, was Trae Young. Obviously, size-wise, they were continuing to try to get the switch as well. Look, one thing I love late was obviously Cole at continuing to set the ball screen for Brunson so that they could get Dyson Daniels off of JB. I like that. I like that a lot, and it definitely helped the Knicks out, you know, late game execution and getting better looks. But look, our continuous, you know, fight on the rebounds to get the second chance points opportunities remains to be one of the best things about our team, guys. The will and the guys, you know, without heart, with OG, with Mitch, getting us second chance points and those kick out threes was backbreaking for the opponents, right? And there's still no answer to Mitch for another team. You know, you can't move him. He's an immovable object, right? And he's great positioning as well. Damn. So look, how confident you got to be when you grab the ball, you know, you got a nice 3-point look. You just put it up because you know, okay, I got maybe a 35, 38% chance of knocking it down. If I don't, we have a 50% chance of getting the rebound, right? So just let it fly, fam, let it fly. I thought our transition defense still needs to get a whole lot better. But look, Jalen Johnson's big. Like, it's a tough matchup. It really is, especially when he's getting ahead of steam, you know, and he's getting downhill. You know, it's important to get a big body ahead of him. Look, Mitch, great stop on that possession where he stayed vertical and was able to just blitz, you know, Johnson and get the steal. That was a great play from Mitch as well. So look, Mitch and OG defensively are our anchors right now. Mikal Bridges, look, knocked down a couple of nice threes. Would have liked to see Mikal Bridges be a little bit more aggressive at the basket as well. Look, the refs were calling it. As I mentioned earlier, Cat, the most free throws he's ever shot. He finally was getting the whistle, was Karl Anthony Towns, right? It was great to see. And he just kept going, man. He kept going to the rack and was confident too. So look, with the ball movement now, I think this team is just going to continue to surge right now, man. Momentum is a hell of a thing in sports right now. And I predicted 56 wins. And right now, I think that's the floor. I feel pretty good about, you know, 56 plus, right? Could we get to 60? Look, a lot of that is going to depend on health. A lot of that is going to depend on how serious they take the end of the season. Maybe we get a little bit of breathing room. Maybe we can afford to sit a couple guys and keep them, you know, ultra fresh, right? That's the luxury we have right now, fam. The regular season's basically the prelude to the main dance, right? And so you just want to keep everyone ready to go in rhythm and healthy, right? And just get through the regular season, right? In the best possible seed. And then the second season really begins with the first round of the playoffs. But if we can just get through the 82 with the 1 or 2 seed, you know, experiment, give younger guys some confidence and keep the veterans fresh and healthy, that's the best possible outcome for me, fam. And Huck Porty's a guy, you know, with Trey Jemison that, you know, wasn't, you know, able to get minutes in this one. You know, like Mello says, Huck Porty's a player the Knicks need to focus on if they're going to need him for the season, playoffs and finals. His height is a plus. He needs to get involved somehow in the rotation. Yeah, fam, I agree. You know, Huck Porty's involvement, the organization really likes Huck Porty. But I guess they like Cat at the 5, and you got to find minutes for him at the 5 as well. Mitch's minutes have gone up. Um, I like OG at the 5 a little bit. You know, I think we can play ultra fast, cut, ball movement, all of that, especially if Hart or, some of these great rebounding wings and guards are on the floor as well. We could still rebound. But I think Huck Porty's more of a longer term fit with the organization. Like, I think he deserves opportunities right now. But I do think with Huck, right, you got to think, obviously, Mitch is up, for an extension, going to be a free agent. The organization going to play that out and see what happens. So, we're going to need a guy like Huck Porty for the future as well. So he's going to be around. He's learning right now still. Got good experience, comes in with good energy. I like Trey Jemison as well. Mike Brown loves Trey Jemison. He loves both of these guys. They've both won Defensive Player of the Game. I think Huck Porty maybe once, Jemison once. So yeah, they can contribute on the defensive side, fam. But I'm just more hyped about our wing situation right now, fam. We had 99 problems, right, in the past, but wings ain't one of them right now. Yes, we could do with a veteran like a Sadiq Bey, but look at our young wings right now. Diarra getting a start out of the draft in the second round. Kevin McCullar Jr. in his first major NBA game. Let's call it that, because all the other games were garbage time, pretty much, right? I think he came in a couple possessions here and there, in the middle of games, to get a stop or an inbounds or whatever, but that's not meaningful. Tonight was, 25 plus minutes, and it was stuff in the stat sheet in the absence of Josh Hart, right? We've talked about Hart quite a lot in terms of his Knicks future. He's 31, and he has 2 more years to run, but the final year is a team option, right? We're going to need, future proofing. And Kevin McCullar Jr. is on the 2-way. We better clear up some space, fam. If he can stay healthy, we better clear up a regular roster spot for a Kevin McCullar Jr. He's just so valuable, right? A guy like that earning peanuts. He can rebound, he can hit free throws, he can shoot threes, and he can get steals and rebound. And he can defend other players' wings and point guards. Like that don't grow on trees. When you find that guy with the 56th pick and it pans out, you thank the heavens right now and the draft scouting. But we obviously need to see a lot more of that. I'm not getting too, I'm not getting too overhyped. But yeah, I definitely, was aware of what Kevin McCullar is capable of doing. He's a real pro. And the 3-point ball is a real thing to watch out, because if he can knock down, 35, 38%, tonight it was 50% from downtown, and he gets great looks with this team. And if he can shoot it with confidence as well, we got something really on our hands with him and Diarra, fam. These lineups, we can finally play with the extra size. And like I said, as long as you got 3 bucket getters and you play with 2 other wings with length and size that can knock down an open shot, that's a good mix. That's a good mix and match. Let's say you got a Brunson, McCullar, OG, Diarra, Cat, right? Okay, you got 3 bucket getters and you got a couple of just defensive kind of specialists that'll rebound and get gritty. You could definitely sprinkle in these bench lineups and starting lineups and closing lineups and all of that, whoever's got it going. Now, Kolek's still growing and it's still advancing in this major development, right? We don't want to, overplay him, I would say, right? I'd love the opportunities he's getting, but I do think his minutes are going to decline when Deuce McBride and Shamet eventually come back. And that's okay. We got Tyler Kolek on 2 more years after this one under a second-round pick salary, all right? Obviously, $2 million. It's a higher second-round pick salary, the highest, in NBA history. But 2 more years under cost control. We're not in no rush to overplay Tyler Kolek right now. He's got great minutes. He's developed, and he's someone you can rely on right now. But we do have to look at the perspective is we're competing for a championship, right? He can obviously play a lot, and we'll see. The minutes go back to Deuce McBride, in my opinion, and we'll see what you know, Shamit looks like when he comes back. Maybe he's a bit funky with the shoulder. That is a tough injury to come back from. But Clarkson's there, you know, as an emergency. And now we know Tyler Kolek is the real deal. But he's still young and he's still learning as well. So maybe they still look for a Jose Alvarado still because of the salary. Speaking of Jose Alvarado, for those that don't see tonight, he got into a major scuffle with Mark Williams from Phoenix, fam. He threw a closed fist, fam, and I think he did make connection. So I do think Jose Alvarado, fam, not sure if any player was ejected, but Jose Alvarado got that dog in him as well. He won't take a step back, right? I think that's what the Knicks like about him as well. He's going to bring some confidence if he does come. But wait to see what happens, because I do think he might get a suspension right now. I mean, you can't be throwing a closed fist punch, but, you know, you don't see that very often. But with our current New York Knicks, man, yeah, look, really happy with Kolek's development so far. And I'm glad that he's getting these opportunities, you know. And there's always going to be injuries. So these guys are already seasoned and are ready to contribute if needed. And look, hopefully Hart can come back soon, because we are going to miss Hart sooner rather than later. His savvy play late, his ability to take it coast to coast, right? We still need a Diarra and McCullar to show us that, you know, offensively, they're going to be aggressive and attack, right? They can't just sit out there and defend. They've got to take advantage when they get their opportunities offensively. Mellow Mike says Muhammad is so talented with his link on D, his length, his quickness on offense, and a shot to go with it. Bright future for the kid. I can only imagine him for next year if he keeps working on his game. Yeah, man, 100% facts. What, Diarra's 20? Right, he ain't even 21. I actually thought he was 21, which is still young. But I think the other game, on the call, they said he was 20. So, yeah, Diarra, he's got so much upside, man. So raw still. But that play tonight where he grabbed the rebound and he just started going coast to coast, right? His dribble is a little loose still, you know, he's still, you know, working into his body at 6'9", 6'10". But he's got to tighten up that handle, work on the three-point shot, but the length, the versatility, man, of him being able to play make as well, see over the defense, man. We might have a point forward on our hands for the future. I think we do. Fam. Slow runner salute. Yeah, Jose is probably going to be suspended. Yeah. It didn't look great on the slow replay. Obviously, in live, you know, players kind of throw those little, you know, swing punches and shoves, but, you know, we'll see what happens. Drew Review says, I'd be mad too if I was Jose, because Cole costed him a chance to be on a championship team. LOL. We'll see. I don't believe Leon. I believe Leon Rose is smart enough to understand that, you know, Kolek's breakout is gravy. And he's definitely off the trading block. Like, Kolek stays, period. Point blank. He's for the future. He's here. He's going nowhere. But you could still, you know, make a contingency plan and get a Jose Alvarado, because Deuce McBride's going to be a free agent soon. Deuce McBride's not a playmaker as well. Another point of attack defender. There's just so many reasons to still try to, you know, acquire a Jose Alvarado. The contract fits with the Yabusele money. You might throw in Dardier. You might try to expand the trade and try to, you know, test your, you know, your leverage with, you know, a bigger name out there in New Orleans. That's less likely. But yeah, Diarra does remind slow runner a lot of Spicy P. Yeah, that was what I was going to say. When he took the ball coast to coast, you see this raw, lanky, athletic wing, right, out of control, and it did look like a young Siakam. Not going to lie. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of refining in his game, right? Now, I was mad at the time with the contract we gave Diarra, right? I know I can't really question Brock Aller. You know, they know what they're doing. But I was surprised we only offered Diarra a 1-year deal, right? I'm sure we'll have his full bird rights because he is a draft pick or whatever it is. But look, if he's already playable right now, you know, we've got him on the lowest possible salary. He's only got a 1-year contract, fam. He's going to be a free agent. at the end of this season, but I'm sure we'll make room. We'll find a way to hopefully give him one of those 4-year cost-friendly deals like we gave Deuce, like we gave to Kolek, and like we gave to Mitch as well. That contract we gave to Mitch in the beginning, not the current contract Mitch is on, but before he got paid, that contract was dirt cheap. The first contract I think we got Mitchy on as well. If we can give Diarra that one, man, for 4 years, I don't know, 4 years, 6 milli, 4 years, 5 milli, whatever it is, 1.2 million per for 4 years, that'd be a steal, right? If he develops even more. But I think the Kolek contract, excellent decision. Clearly, Leon Rose knew and understood the skill set and the game that Kolek has, can contribute to the squad. 4 years, got him under cost control for 2 more seasons, right? For Kolek, right? So we have that backup point guard for real now to back up JB. Now, he ain't always going to have it. He is a backup point guard. And I think we're kind of maybe overplaying him a little bit until he continues to knock down that 3 consistently. He's got to still have a quick hook, especially on the defensive side. But that's where a Kevin McCullar could come in. He's older and he's also bigger and can handle the ball as well. That nice swing from Kevin McCullar where he had his head up for a young fella thriving, he didn't force it. He found, I think it was OG or Macau on the left corner, and he had a nice swing assist as well, did Kevin McCullar. So he is kind of a playmaking forward as well, like Josh Hart, or a playmaking shooting guard as well. He's really a swing man, in my opinion, at 6'6". He's longer than Josh Hart. He's not as built, like physically, like a Josh Hart in terms of getting those rebounds and mixing it up against power forwards, but McCullar can guard 3-4 positions. He can guard probably 1 through 3, 1 through 4, possibly, depending on the size of the power forward. I think due to his length, and then you throw him out there with Kevin McCullar, with Diarra in the future, and you've got size, you've got defensive guys that can throw their wingspan around the court and really fly around and get those deflections, man. That's just going to make us so tough to play against. Because once we get those steals, it's a wrap. We're out in transition. You got Cat slamming and jamming. You got Jalen Brunson pulling up for the splash 3 as well, too. I just can't wait to see this squad fully healthy with Landry Shamet and Deuce McBride back. And let's see what we can do with Yabusele and Dardier's contract, fam. We get one more trustworthy rotation player. Man, this is the best squad in my lifetime, right? And no shade to the 93, 94 Knicks, the 98, 99, 2000 Knicks, all of that. But in terms of just sheer talent, depth, all of that. I mean, OG's in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation. Mikal Bridges deserves to be in that conversation as well. You got 2 all-star starters in Cat and Jalen Brunson. You got a deep bench now. You got young players developing. The Knicks, from top to bottom, the roster has never been this healthy, in this healthy of a position, fam, in all my fandom, going back since 92. That's my honest opinion. I'm not prisoner of the moment right now. I just think that it's all coming together, right trades, right free agent acquisitions. Now the draft is really giving this team a boost. Finally, we've been hoping. Yes, some of these guys ain't blue chip prospects. We ain't drafting in the top 8 like Ntilikina's and Kevin Knox's, Porzingis's, RJ's. But we continue to hit with these late picks. Quickly was a hit. We turned him into, OG. Mitchell Robinson and Deuce McBride were more than a hit. Home runs in the second round as well. I mean, look, Trevor Keels probably will be a folk tale we'll talk about. Our grandchildren will talk about. We'll probably make up some excuse why Trevor Keels didn't pan out. But outside of that, man, everyone else is panning out right now, including these unknown French dudes that, who really heard of Mohamed Diarra before the draft night, or weeks before the draft. Workout started to kick. That was what happened. Basically, the Knicks do their homework. And back to tonight's major story, Kevin McCullar. I mean, I'm happy for the man, deserves his opportunities. He's been doing hard time in the G League, man. It ain't easy traveling to, watching, the big club win and sometimes shorthanded and still not get a chance under Thibodeau. Even earlier in the season, I think McCullar was balling out in Westchester while the big club was playing at Madison Square Garden. And I thought, look, this game could have done with a McCullar at times. And tonight he got an opportunity. And I'm surprised Mike Brown really chose tonight to dust him off. But like I said, confidence is brewing amongst the squad. It's all contagious. When you see a Kolek break out, you see a Diarra, McCullar is ready, to take his chance. Drew Reviews Music says, honestly, you could argue we got 4 All-Stars this year. 100% you could argue. Look, the East is weak, but look, Jaylen Brown's probably going to be in it. Cade's definitely right there. The format's a bit funky right now. But yeah, look, I take the chip. I love these personal accolades and the NBA Cup and all of that. It's all, it's all rolling in nicely for us to take home the big prize. That's what we need to do right now, man. We need to capitalize because, look, the West, it's changing by the week. Who had the Spurs ahead of the Thunder, 2 weeks ago? Now, we're only, 31 games into the season. Like, who knows what we're saying after 60, right? OKC might, they're not going to drop too far. I'm not going to get crazy. OKC is going to be right there, but, they might just be running up against a bad matchup against San Antonio. And look, Spurs might steal a chip well ahead of their time. We've seen it before where teams can things just come together at the right time and it's ahead of schedule and you just steal a chip. And then maybe you need to redevelop a few pieces again and then you go again. But it can happen. I could see the Spurs really getting out of the West. Fam. Mark, salute. Shez V, great to see you in here. Salute. We've certainly got a big 4 with Brunson, Cat, OG, and Bridges, says Drew. Big squad, man. We're big squad right now. New York Flash, right? We're playing to our strengths finally. Our roster is our coaching and our drafting and all of that, right? And look, there are a couple of guys I wanted the Knicks to pick. And back to the Diarra selection, right? Once the selection was made, I was like, okay, cool. That's a fit. We drafted clearly on roster fit. We just needed a guy that doesn't need the ball. We got more than enough guys to get shots. We needed a guy that's going to be long, athletic, could put on other wings and just be a backup wing. And we have that right now in Mohamed Diarra, who's starting, right? Let that sink in. We have a second-round draft pick, a late second-round draft pick who's starting right now, right? And he doesn't look out of place. For a 20-year-old, he don't look scared. Now, he's a little hesitant. His offensive game is super raw, but he's a guy that looks fun. He looks comfortable out there. He looks like he's having fun. And I do think, for whatever it's worth, the pro experience, I know it's French league or German league or whatever it was, the Euro league, playing professionally, it does speed up the process, fam. It does speed it up, right? And the college game gives you more time to refine your game, like work on your shot, work on the playmaking and D and all that, and you have more years at a lower level. That's good too. You see Kolek and McCullar do 4 years, 5 years in college. That can help. But with raw pros as well, that could speed things up as well because you get that pro experience. You quickly learn the physical side of the game, because the pro game is more physical than college, And look, Diarra, confident stepping into those threes and actually knocking some down. The form looks pretty as well. I do think he's just got to tighten that handle. If Mohamed Diarra can keep that dribble and tighten it up and actually really use that to be a point forward and play make as well as slash, man. Shout out to my guy Ron. Salute to everyone out here. Mellow Mike says Tibbs stunted the growth and progression of that freshman class last year. The only one that hasn't progressed like he should is Pack. The other three are still on course to do well. Yeah, if you notice some G League games, Pack has had some great games as well. You know, he scored 28 the other night, and I still think Pack could have the highest ceiling of all of them. That's never in doubt. He's just extremely raw, and for some guys, it just takes longer than others. You know, for whatever reason, it could come down to personality just as much as that. Pack looks timid. Let's be real. He's always smiling. Looks just happy to be there. Sometimes that's not the best. You got to be angry. You got to be frustrated that you ain't playing, right? Yes, you got to be respectful. You got to be supportive as a teammate. But sometimes you don't need to be timid. You're a professional. You've been there. You're getting paid. You need to be angry. You need to take your frustration out in practice in the G League that you ain't playing. And I don't see that from Dardier just yet. He's looking like a guy who's, you know, and this is very normal. I'm not singling him out. This is very normal among young NBA players that aren't ready yet, but they just look happy to be there earning, you know, being a millionaire. You know, they just look happy living the NBA lifestyle right now until it kicks in where it's like, hey, I'm sick and tired of not playing. I'm going to do something about it. That's when you'll see a player like him really start to gel, right? You see that in Colette, right? Yes, he's short. He's shorter than others, you know. He's not as long as others, but you see a fight. You see a dog out there that's like, hey, I need to play. You're going to have to play me. And he's definitely making that case. Glenn Jones, salute, my guy. Says, tough win, cardiac Knicks today, but I love to see the bench guys helping. This is what I wanted to see last year. We need that bench guys to help us out. Go New York. Yeah, you sound like Josh Hart. You know, he was, you know, calling out his brothers saying, you know, you guys got to help us out, pick us up, especially when these injuries hit. But look, shout out to Mike Brown. He's leaning on the coaching staff as well. You know, I'm sure a lot of these assistant coaches, because I've heard Mike Brown say this, Mike Brown left the decision up to an assistant coach, I think, in regards to bringing a player back from injury. He's like, look, this guy's looking good. Let's play him. And I think Mike Brown is leaning on the assistant coaches for what they're seeing in practice. They're probably telling him, look, Kevin McCullar, you know, you could use him. You could use him a little. You know, he could give you something. You know, and he probably seen for his own eyes. Let's not forget, Mike Brown, when he first got the job, he went to Vegas. He was sitting there courtside, Summer League. We covered Summer League. McCuller had that 30-point game. Yeah, it was kind of a rough Summer League overall for Kevin McCullar, but Mike Brown was there courtside, practices as well. He was hearing from the beginning and would have got the handover from McCullar as well from last season. But he was there for that 30-point game where Kevin McCullar looked comfortable offensively. He was slashing, dribbling, cutting, and, you know, he knows what he's capable of doing. And we're 30 games into the season, and he's given him a major game, a major performance with 25 minutes as well. Drew agrees. McCullar clearly got sick of not playing either as well. Man was unconscious. I think the G League helps too, you know. I know it doesn't get the attention that it sometimes should. And look, a lot of Knicks fans love watching Westchester as well. So there is that section of the fan base. Others just, you know, will check in on the score every now and then. But right now, Dink Pate is doing big things with the G League. Tosan is a guy that could probably help an NBA team that's not competing for a championship. Let's say if Tosan was on, you know, Washington or Charlotte, even Orlando, he might get opportunities. But, you know, he's having big games like tonight in the G League as well. The G League really does help because guys can flesh out their games. You know, you get 48 minutes where you don't worry about the coach taking you out. You know, you can take open shots. You can force it a little bit. You can experiment on your game as well. So that's what the G League is for. And the Knicks have been using that. You know, a lot of Knicks fans were actually angry earlier in the season. It's like, why are we not calling these guys up? Why are they always in Westchester? Well, there's two sides to that coin, fam. They are getting valuable minutes where if you know they ain't going to play with the Knicks, They need to keep playing. They need to be playing. You know, they can't be sitting at home. So the G League is doing its job right now. And Kolek, McCullar, Diarra been playing some key minutes with the G League, and it's helping. You know, it's doing its job right now, fam, as well. I'm looking at next in the pipeline. Is Dink Pate going to get a chance this season? Right. We've got a 6'8" ball handler with him. Right. We're going to have to do another show, an off night, non-post game stream, you know, doing a Westchester check-in right now. Now, the Knicks can add a 15th body even if they don't make any move, but that's later in April. For me, that wouldn't be a new guy. I would convert McCuller from a two-way to that spot, or I would convert Trey Jemison to that spot and then backfill the two-way. But look, I ain't the one making the decisions. There could be a great buyout guy, but I do think that's more likely to come in from clearing space from the trade. I do think Dardier and maybe Yabusele might get moved, right? I do think the chances are increasing by the day. Johnny Chiba with the super chat, got the streets buzzing. Johnny Chiba, appreciate you for rocking with us as always. Knowledgeable, got great takes, funny insight as well, keeping us entertained. CT, rate your youngsters' ceilings and NBA success in order. Right? Okay, great question, man. So ceilings and NBA success in order, right? Muhammad Diarra, I think, has the higher ceiling. It's just because of the tools, you know, it always goes back to like, okay, if he puts it all together and he develops the way, you know, like a Siakam did, you know, you have a wing that every single team in the NBA would want. And so from that standpoint, he gets top billing from a ceiling perspective. Second would be, I think close would be Kolek. I do think the ceiling, you know, is still relatively high for Kolek if the three ball is big time. You know, you've seen backup point guards take the next step where a team might take a chance on them to be a part-time starter or, you know, a full-time starter. I think right behind him, you've got HAWKS, again, similar to Diarra. There's a world where I could see HAWKS as an NBA starter as well. I don't think it's as likely as Kolek, but I do think a HAWKS, if he can develop his offensive game, again, we've seen, you know, young bigs like Hassan Whiteside. We've seen young bigs, you know, come up and, you know, establish themselves as a full-time five. And then it's got to be my guy, you know, Pacome. And then in terms of ceiling, I do think Kevin McCullar Jr. I don't think the ceiling is ultra high with him, but he can definitely be a regular backup wing. I think the health is a concern with McCullar long term. But in terms of NBA success, I think he's one of the more ready-made guys as well. But the fact that Diarra is already playable and you know he's only going to get better, he's at number one. He's at number one. I think in another situation, Pacome Dardier, if we were able to be more patient with him and let him get to his third year of his contract, fourth year, you know, you could see a breakout, but I just don't know if we're going to get to that point. And like I said, it has to come from within. He has to show that will, that dog, to say I'm sick of not being, you know, played. Yeah, great question as always. Appreciate you. NBA success. Look, Kolek at the top. I think Kolek's going to be around for 10 plus years, right? It's tough to say that about the other guys, right? Even Diarra, it's still raw. You don't know if you could see a 10-year career. Kolek, I'll be close to saying, and this is health permitting, obviously, but just in terms of game, I'd be 80% confident right now saying Kolek's going to be a 10-year pro in the NBA. I mean, you see these guards, you know, hang around forever, these backup guards, Ish Smith. You see, you know, Corey Joseph. You see DeLon Wright. You just see these guys in the league and you're like, man, he's still in the league. Tyler Kolek's still going to be in the league, fam, in 2035. I think if he's healthy still. Now, he might be 33, 34, 35 by then, but I still think I could see him in the league in terms of NBA success. The dribbling, like that's improved a lot with Tyler Kolek. You know, he doesn't get sped up. You know, he's got the nice round the back. I think that throws the defender off, and then he's able to get downhill a lot quicker as well. Drew Reviews Music says Mike Brown said he loved Diarra so much that if he didn't have our full starting lineup healthy, Diarra would get lots of minutes, man. That's why I love what Mike Brown's doing, Drew. Thanks for that comment. And yeah, look, I think Mike Brown has that perspective. You know, he's failed at some places. He's coached Hall of Famers, Kobe, LeBron. You know, he's coached Steph as an assistant in Golden State. You know, Kevin Durant. I think Mike Brown was the assistant when Kevin Durant was on the Dubs as well. I mean, what a resume. Mike Brown is going in the Hall of Fame. Even if we don't win a chip, if, you know, let's say we get to the finals a couple times or whatever it is, but if we definitely win a chip, Mike Brown's in the Hall of Fame. You know, he understands situations. Definitely, he's, you know, worked on some young players. I mean, look at Fox right now, fam. You know, had a big play in developing Diarra Fox. You know, arguably his greatest project. Sabonis took an average Sacramento team to the top seed in the West, won Coach of the Year as well. So I do think Mike Brown unfairly copped a lot of shade. You know, yes, he wasn't the sexy name or the sexy hire, but I mean, let me just ask you guys right now, and I can't do this in a poll, unfortunately. We'll do it in the next show when I'm back in the studio. But if you had the chance to go back and redo the coaching hire and get Jason Kidd, knowing what we're seeing now, would you do that? And I don't know if that'd be an automatic mulligan. I don't know if that'd be an automatic, yeah, get J Kidd, you know, throw away Mike Brown, right? I'm happy with what we have right now. I'll be sticking with what we have, you know, just based on what we've seen. And obviously I don't have the benefit of the playoffs yet. I don't have hindsight, but I'm happy with what we have right now, man. I would have liked Jason Kidd as the coach, but I was also okay with Mike Brown. Johnny Chiba gives us his thoughts. Appreciate CT for the breakdown, but the number one prospect on the Knicks is Dink Pate. Dink Pate as well. Appreciate you once again, Johnny Chiba. We have so many that I forgot Dink Pate, fan. That's my bad. I just want to see more of Dink Pate. I haven't watched enough Westchester Knicks, but yeah, in terms of ceiling, you know, I agree with you. I think Dink Pate would be above Kolek, you know, in terms of ceiling, above Huck Porty, above Dardier, and above McCullar. He'd probably be alongside Diarra, in my opinion. Yeah, G Salute says he's playing with confidence. Yeah, the whole squad looks confident, man. They're trusting each other. You know, in all my years of watching NBA and, you know, teams that are succeeding and all of that, you see the key thing is trust, right? If you're down 10, you know, you're down 1 with 3 seconds left, you know, you have the shot to save your life, you're going to trust your teammates, and usually, you know, you come out on top. That's the biggest thing. You see teams like the Hawks and Lakers, and you just don't see the trust with some of these squads. The Boston Celtics have that. As much as I hate Boston, they've won chips. They've won championships together. They're coaching, you know, their DNA, winning organization. They trust from top to bottom. You see that when a guy like Tatum goes down and they can still hold it down. They lose Horford, Cornette, Porzingis, and Jason Tatum, and they're still the 3rd seed, right? They can trust. They trust the organization. They trust their players, the teammates. With the Knicks right now, I'm seeing that 100% trust. You know, when McCullar knocks down the 3, how often do we see the entire bench stand up, you know, looking just as excited as Kevin McCullar is to knock down the 3? You know, these guys are genuinely happy for each other's success right now because no one's really competing too much. No one's really here to take shine away from someone else, right? They already won an NBA Cup together. and they're already doubled some of their salary. I think if anything, they're just like thankful for the opportunities, you know, to be in New York on a winning team. And these guys just want to sacrifice and get it done. And if I'm Leon Rose, I'm saying, look, go out there, guys, and get it done. Right? I'm not making the Giannis trade, but we'll revisit that in the off season. Right now, go out there and get it done. Right? I'm not shaking up anything right now. So really, really, really good time to be a Knicks fan. Excited for the next game. We wrap this one up, fam. Right, I'm sure the Hawks game is right before New Year's, so we've got time to wish everyone a happy New Year's and all of that. But you know, our Knicks right now are rolling, going for that number one spot. Offense, I think we are 5th in net rating in the NBA. And tonight, right, we escaped with a cardiac win. But when you see guys from, you know, the draft and the G League step up and contribute the way they did, right, the future is very, very bright, right? And the squad is very, very deep, right? Let's hope Deuce can return in New Orleans. Shaman, I think, is a little far away, or further away, sorry. Not far away, but further away than Deuce. But obviously, Josh Hart, we need you back, fam. Rest up that ankle. We got the demon, the young demon, Kevin McCullar, to help you out right now, just like you asked for. You asked someone to step up, and Kevin McCullar stepped up for you, fam, in major minutes. So I want to see what Diarra has in the next game as a starter again. Shout out to Kat for his aggression, knocking down free throws. Shout out to OG Anunoby, who also saved the day in this one. And we know the captain's going to be the captain coming back, right, to break hearts on the other team as well. Everyone stay blessed, peace, and the streets are buzzing.